Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody. I am joined alongside my good friend and co-host, Tony Sapia. Bears went big on the first day of free agency, signing Larry Ogunjobi, who fits perfectly into Matt Eberflus's 4-3 defense. This signing likely means that Jakeem Hicks is not coming back to the Chicago Bears, unfortunately, but you never know. And a big night, not day, big night of day two. And so far, an interesting morning as well for the Chicago Bears. We got all the updates for you so far.
Yeah, so I tweeted out Ryan Poles might be Batman because he only works at night. Who knows? Trying to save Gotham City, basically Chicago. So the Bears did lose a few players over the last 48 hours. All people that we wanted, I'd argue, and I'm sure a lot of Bears fans also would at least like to see at least one or two of them stick around. James Daniels being one of them. He went to the Steelers on a 3-year, $26.5 million contract. Honestly, cheaper than I thought he'd go for. Yeah, and he will be paired up with the former GOAT of Chicago, Mitch Trubisky. All kidding aside, Bilal Nichols to the Raiders on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Another cheap one. Yeah, the Bears were going to offer him double. It was going to be 1 year, $11 million or something along those lines. So that's, either way, maybe we're just, we'll see what Ryan Poles is doing. But Jakeem Grant also went to the Browns. This one kind of hurts the most, although it actually was probably the most expensive or the highest over what we thought someone was going to get. So Jakeem Grant to the Browns on a 3-year, $13.8 million deal. Shout out the Browns. They got a good return man to go with their potentially new quarterback over there. So Ryan Poles, he did say the Bears are going to be more of a second, third round, third wave team kind of for free agency in regards to building that way. So he wants to be very clear. He is going to build through the draft. He has made that absolutely known. So Nick, what has he done basically, I guess?
The Bears over the last 2 days, so 48 hours, obviously they signed big defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi, but they also re-signed long snapper Pat Scales to a very big contract for a long snapper, more than Tony and I both predicted, so happy for him. But then we signed linebacker Nichols Morrow from the Las Vegas Raiders, and then this is the big one for an absolute steal. Offensive guard center Lucas Patrick on a 2-year, $8 million contract, and more are to come. We are going to talk about that here. We got the breakdown about free agency and more rumors about the Chicago Bears. But Tony, what were your reactions quickly about the guys that we lost? And, we were going to offer them the bag in our mock draft or our mock free agency, but they walked out. So, hey, your lost suckers. Could have got more money in Chicago because Chicago's going to be in the Super Bowl within the next 2 years. So, Tony, any initial reactions before we go into our very special sponsor of today's episode?
After seeing what he got, honestly, James Daniels is kind of the one that I'm most surprised at. I can see if he might have just wanted out of Chicago, and I get it. But also, it looks like we might lose Pat O'Donnell, and that's sad, according to Brad Biggs. He probably wanted the bag for a punter. So, although I will miss his perfect punts, I very much miss them. In reality, I get it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Ryan Poles taking his time. I'm going to not, get on him like I maybe would with Ryan Pace because, he's trying to make sure he's not panic overpaying and putting us in the position that he had to, Poles just had to dig us out of basically at the start of this free agency period. So I have faith in Poles. I'm going to try being an optimistic Bears fan this time around because why not? What else do I have? What? I could just be mad for 4 years until it either works out or it doesn't? No, I'm going to let my heart open up, let some love in. We'll see if it works.
And letting something else in, do you want $200 in risk-free bets? Before we begin, we'd like to thank today's sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Teams have been fighting all season long to secure their shot at being crowned a champion. Just as teams are in pursuit of glory, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving their new customers a shot at royalty with 40-1 odds on any college basketball game. That's betting $5 on any college basketball team to win their next game. And if they win, DraftKings will pay you out $200 in risk-free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook has nearly endless ways to get in on the action, from same-day parlays to future betting. Feel the sweat with DraftKings now. Everyone can enter DraftKings' free $1 million March Mania Survivor Pool, but must enter before tip-off on March 19th. Each day of games, pick one team that you think will win that day. If the team that you pick wins, you survive to pick another team the next day of games. Remember, you can only choose each team once, so choose carefully for your shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JChicago. Throw down just $5 on any college basketball game of your choice and get $200 in risk-free bets. if the team you chooses wins. That's code JAY Chicago at DraftKings Sportsbook.
We are very excited about this offer, and you should be too. So check out our personal link in the description now for all new DraftKings players. Use promo code JChicago, JAY Chicago, no spaces, and bet just $5. Just $5 on any college basketball team of your choice and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check out all the other great odds and promotions DraftKings Sportsbook offers. I know our other guy, Nick, is signing up today, so he's excited to do that. So
it's free money. How do you not want free that? Yeah. You know, that's like 2 tanks of gas now, depending on what kind of car you drive.
Oh, I love when they give free bets. I love, especially this time of year, March Madness. It's going to be awesome. So Nick, not only are we excited about March Madness, but also I think we're excited about what Ryan Poles is doing. What do you think?
I think he's doing a great job. I know we already went into, a little bit about Larry Ogunjobi. We already covered that. It's in our last episode. Please go check it out. But the guy that I fell asleep a little early last night. Took my dad out to dinner, had a big meal. And all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up and it's Tony. Like he did the DND thing again, where like he just ignored that I had him on Do Not Disturb. And he sends me Bears. And I'm like, who? And he goes, Lucas Patrick. And I go, what? So Lucas Patrick, offensive guard and center. This guy can play either guard position and the center position. And he literally, his career snaps ratio at each position shows it. He has 459 snaps at left guard, 958 snaps at center, 1,267 snaps at right guard. Losing James Daniels, Ryan Poles goes, come here, guy. We got you. 28 years old, 6'3", 313. That's a big interior lineman from a height perspective, but this guy is like a lean, strong lineman, though. He signed a 2-year, $8 million contract with the Bears, a complete steal. Again, less than what Daniels got, if you think about it. If you put into perspective, James Daniels got a little bit over $8.5 million a year. This guy's getting $4 million a year. Probably a lot of incentives, and I like that about, it's kind of under the table money. Like, hey, come on, if you play 10 snaps, I'll give you an extra $1 million. Here you go. It's out of McCaskey's pocket, not mine. He's a tough physical guy that is not going to let you get in the face of anyone on his team. Like, he is going to go after and defend his guys like Jenkins did last year. See you later, Effetti. Like, absolutely not. That was just soft. Could not be any softer, especially against the Vikings. But anyway, in 2021, here's his most impressive stat as a center, which I hope the Bears put him at center. He had a 72% run block win percentage amongst centers. That was third in 2021. Something the Bears for sure need for David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert moving forward. Tony, initial react. I mean, what a steal. And also he knows Luke Getsy's offense, which is obviously a giant plus.
Absolutely. And speaking of, the former Packers that like him, I think that was a good little lead in there. For whatever it's worth, that I know we hate this man. He is public enemy number one. Aaron Rodgers likes him. There's some story about he thought he was going to get cut, and Aaron Rodgers knocks on his car window door and says, hey, I'm keeping you around. I like you, blah, 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 something like that. You can find that later. So I hate Aaron Rodgers, but he knows his players. He, as a quarterback, he knows who he wants protecting him. And unfortunately, I have to, assume that he's got a good opinion here. So that's good. Second thing is I tweeted something that I read from the Packers website about the games he played and mentioned 16 games last year. So that was a copy and paste error on my part. I blame the Green Bay Packers for sabotaging me. And that is all that I will comment on the matter. So,
well, but then talking about guys that were going to get cut, especially people that are a fan favorite, they re-signed Patrick Scales, your favorite long snapper of all time.
Absolutely, they did, and I know it may be a little much for a long snapper. 1 year, $1.27 million, but especially with the Bears, and especially with, I think this is going to be more of a rebuilding year. We're going to be on special teams a lot. I'll just I'll put it that way, especially the punting and kicking, field goal kicking unit. So I'm okay. Shore up your guy for a year. Make sure that that's not the issue. We obviously have had our special teams gaffes in the past. Rather just make sure it's all taken care of. And he's the man. He's awesome. Everyone seems to love him. I mean, they wouldn't keep it's a
good locker room
position.
Guy.
Yeah, it's a replaceable position. So if he sucked, I mean, they as a person, I can't imagine they'd keep him around. So that's good to see. I like Patrick Scales. I think he deserves it. Again, him and Pat O'Donnell have been the two most consistent offensive players for the Chicago Bears. So
And again, he's a funny guy. He's in the locker room. People in the locker room like him as well. So I think Ryan Poles looked at it like, hey, I'm going to chew up 1.7 million. They gave him the veterans minimum of 1.27 million. And I think they looked at it as, like you kind of said, it's a rebuilding year. You need leadership. You need someone in the locker room when times are bad to like get people through it. That's what this guy is going to do for you. I think the Bears are already better than last year. I mean, just alone with, front office and head coaching, I still think the Bears will probably have a similar record, but if they keep going, we're about to get into our list of guys that they could go after. Stay tuned for that. But our last guy that they re-signed, I'm going to go through him quickly. Nick Morrow, linebacker from the Las Vegas Raiders. He's 6 foot, 225 pounds, and only 26 years old. He was more of a role player in 2020, but he had a decent season. He had 78 combined tackles, 62 of those being solo. He had 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 1 interception, and 9 pass deflections. So as a linebacker, he knows how to get after the ball, and he knows. And linebackers don't get a lot of sacks, by the way, when you're like a middle linebacker. Just putting that out there. So getting there is pretty good. This move likely means, though, that Alec Ogletree will not be back unless the Bears plan to use him as a role player, keeping up with Pole's theme of young and fast. Tony, anything else before we get into our guys who the Bears still could go after in free agency this year?
Yeah, like you said, he's fast, he's young, he can develop with Roquan Smith. And I saw some people like in our Instagram comments being like, oh, well, he had a bad year 3 years ago. How do we know he's going to be good? You're right. We don't know. We have no idea. He may never play
but he's gotten better
for the Chicago Bears. Absolutely. But at the same time, these are young guys that a couple of the guys, it seems like, are guys that they definitely are trying to have their big NFL moment. They're trying to break out. And I like that Poles is kind of going after those guys that he knows are going to play with a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove. And I like that. That's kind of how he's been attacking this free agency.
Absolutely. So players that we've talked about that are gone. And I know, Tony, this first one hurts a lot, but run through everybody the 2 players that we wanted who are gone. Yeah.
So this one hurt. I said it before. I was pounding the table for this guy. He actually it's a weird deal. I didn't expect it, I will say. So wide receiver DJ Chark. We did mention he was coming off that ankle injury, so I think this is why he got 1 year, $12 million with the Lions. Definitely a prove-it deal if I've ever seen one in my life. I don't know. I guess the Lions were just giving him the most money, maybe. I don't know. That was a weird decision either way, in my opinion. But either way, then safety Justin Reed, 3 years, $31 million with the Chiefs. But Nick, I know that wasn't even the safety you cared about, but you know who that does open up from the Chiefs.
Tyrann Mathieu, baby, bring the honey badger to Chicago. Has a lot of ties with Ryan Poles, and it's been rumored alongside NFL executives that Mathieu will be looking to come to Chicago. The Bears also have a lot of interest in him, and that would really beef up the secondary. That's something that we want. But there's even more players that we can go after. Every day, it seems like new players. Landon Collins officially just got released by the Washington Commanders. But let's just go through quickly players that the Bears could go after. And then, Tony, I want you to get on any comments on them. Linebacker Miles Jack from the Jacksonville Jaguars, new free agent as of yesterday. He led the horrible Jaguars in tackling last year, but he's young at 26 years old. And I know we just hired Morrow, but he could be part of that 4-3 defense, a big benefit. And he could go on cheap because he did get released. There could be a backstory behind it, but you never know. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is also available. And he even yesterday said on his Twitch that he would like to play for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, or he would like to play along Justin Fields at least. So whatever that means, but he's staying in Chicago for 3 more years. So that, obviously, 1 + 2 = 3. So just putting that out there. Wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling is still available. The Bears have shown a lot of interest in him as well. Might be a contract situation, especially with the Christian Kirk signing. Kind of mashes up the market a little bit. Tight end CJ Uzomah, who is part of the Cincinnati Bengals, is still a free agent, and with Jimmy Graham likely gone, the Bears could look to him because he is younger and he's big. Left tackle Cam Robinson could stay in Jacksonville, but he might get released too. Or they might not even try to bring him back. He's young and proven, could help improve the offensive line. Wide receiver Allen Robinson, you never know. Bears Twitter wants him back because they feel like this team is better. But Robinson still, the only person that's shown interest is the Patriots, and the Patriots always seem to have money. JC Tretter, if Lucas ends up playing guard, who's also president of the NFLPA for the players, he just became available because Cleveland released him. Cleveland's a disaster right now. Go have Jakeem Cramp, but then if you bring in Deshaun Watson, good for you. And then finally, two more. Safety Stephon Gilmore really doesn't fit Ryan Poles, young and fast, but good experience. And then Akeem Hicks. You never know. He could come back to Chicago. Bears fans would obviously love that. But those are some of the bigger names that the Bears could go after. Tony, anyone else that I'm missing on before we close today's episode?
Not necessarily. This is just more one overall comment on the free agents that are left. And I was kind of thinking about this as you were going through it. What's nice about Ryan Poles actually waiting this out is the Jaguars actually ended up doing us a favor by just going way over the top with their price. Like if it wasn't like,
everyone
just above marketplace. Yeah, they didn't just go slightly above my market price. They gave too much. So now when these agents say, oh, well, Christian Kirk got blah, 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 it's like, that is the most made up number. We're going with our number. And it's actually a fair counter. It's not necessarily like we're disrespecting them. So it might actually end up working out in our favor that we waited. We let the market cool. We were like, that's lunacy. We are not doing that. And now we're maybe Miles Jack. I would love Miles Jack. I think it'd be
a great pairing.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely just has to be the Jaguars just being a dumb franchise and signing too many new free agents, so they had to cut them. So I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting going forward. And there may be breaking news by the time this even comes out. So
yeah, so stay tuned for that. Tony and I have been checking our phones constantly throughout this, but nothing has popped up yet. So stay tuned for that. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. Make sure you go check out our DraftKings Sportsbook personal link to get that $5 200 in free bets, and make sure that you follow the rules. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Morrow, joined alongside Tony Sapita, and we'll see you guys next time.